Organizers of Monday's immigration rally holding a news conference at this hour at Presidio Park. Members of the Border Action Network say they're angry that Tucson police officers used pepper spray during a scuffle at the rally and that an anti-illegal immigration group was allowed to burn Mexican flags during the protest. Tonight, the group is meeting with city and police officials. Stay with News 4. We'll have a live report with the latest coming up at 6.
Live from Tucson, covering all of southern Arizona. This is KGUN 9 News at 5.
Breaking news tonight, a call for all the charges against these protesters to be dropped. Good evening. That word is just coming in from a news conference held minutes ago outside City Hall.
Protest organizers want the charges dropped and the whole chaotic scene fully investigated. Let's go straight to Mark Horner, who is at the scene. Mark.
Yes, indeed. March organizers have just started their news conference about 4 minutes ago. You just go over my shoulder here and you can see that we have quite a few people who have gathered here. The organizers handed me a statement minutes prior going into their meeting with city leaders just before 3:30 this afternoon. We have video of those leaders entering City Hall this afternoon. Their statement says they're outraged that the city allowed a counter-protest in the middle of their rally. They say it's not an issue of free speech but public safety. Organizers say they're, quote, astounded by what they call the police department's selective enforcement, including TPD's, quote, failure to arrest Roy Warden at the time his alleged crimes were committed, end quote. In this afternoon's meeting, organizers asked the city and TPD to drop charges against the 6 people arrested Monday. They also asked the city to accept responsibility for the unrest on Monday. They're asking the city to issue an apology to the people who demonstrated peacefully. And they want an immediate investigation into, among other things, what they're calling selective enforcement. A moment ago, I spoke with Wade Caldwell. Mr. Caldwell was pepper sprayed as police put a young woman in a squad car.
I got to a certain point where we were following this young lady. I was blowing a ceremonial seashell that I use for ceremonies. My friend was pleading with the police to let her go. And next thing I know, I see his eyes get sprayed. And then I grabbed his head and I put it into my shirt and tried to wipe his eyes off with my shirt. And while I was doing that, I began to blow my shell. And as I did that, I got my eyes sprayed. And then for 20 minutes, all I heard was crying and screaming and sirens.
Again, this news conference just got underway. I listened in on the first 3 minutes of it, and I can tell you a couple of interesting comments off the top. These organizers say that city leaders have agreed to investigate the decision to allow counter-protests, the flag-burning counter-protesters, inside of the larger rally at the park. They say that the city leaders also agree that there will be an investigation into the enforcement actions that were administered by TPD that day. So far, no word on what the city has to say about the organizers' request to dismiss the charges against the 6 people arrested on Monday. Reporting live, Mark Horner, back to you.
Well, we have fallout tonight from Monday's immigration march and rally. Protesters who claim that Tucson police used excessive force during a scuffle, and they're demanding an apology tonight from the city. News 4's David Marino is live at Presidio Park tonight. David.
That's right. Organizers of Monday's immigration march and rally are asking for an apology from the city and Tucson police. They held a news conference here at Presidio Park just moments ago. Organizers say they are outraged and accuse the city of endangering public safety by allowing a counter-protest group called Border Guardians to protest in the middle of their otherwise peaceful rally. They also believe police used excessive force to control the crowd. Organizers of Monday's march met with city officials and police this afternoon to voice their concerns. Now, there's a laundry list of things they're asking for from the city. One of those requests includes dropping all charges against the 6 people arrested on Monday. Overall, march organizers say today's meeting with city officials and police was positive.
They didn't want to accept all allegations as truth, of course, until they investigate. But all in all, I thought they were quite receptive. They know it's very serious. They're going to treat it seriously.
And coming up tonight at 10, we'll hear what police are saying about all of this. For now, we're live downtown. David Marino, News 4.
The organizers of the Immigration Reform March are calling for all of the charges to be dropped against 6 protesters who were arrested. And that's not all organizers are demanding. Mark Horner picks up this developing story live downtown.
Guy, march organizers met with city leaders for just over an hour late this afternoon. Among those in that meeting, the city manager and the police chief. March organizers seem encouraged by their meeting with city leaders.
We have received assurances that the incident will be investigated. The decision to permit a hate group to participate in the midst of our peaceful and very large rally will be investigated.
The organizers say the city also agreed to investigate the police department's enforcement actions Monday, and that their request to drop charges against 6 people arrested Monday will be discussed. Among those here, a young woman arrested Monday. She declined to be interviewed. A man who was pepper sprayed at the rally does talk.
I got to a certain point where we were following this young lady. I was blowing a ceremonial seashell that I use for ceremonies. My friend was pleading with the police to let her go. And next thing I know, I see his eyes get sprayed. And then I grabbed his head and I put it into my shirt and tried to wipe his eyes off with my shirt. And while I was doing that, I began to blow my shell. And as I did that, I got my eyes sprayed. And then for 20 minutes, all I heard was crying and screaming and sirens. And
Earlier today, I asked a march organizer whether or not anyone planned to file a lawsuit in the midst of all of this. I was told no comment. Meantime, TPD, the police department, holding a news conference right now, beginning just 2 minutes ago at the police headquarters downtown. We'll have that story for you tonight at 10. Reporting live, Mark Horner, back to you.
Monday's march, organizers gathered today upset that the city allowed a group to burn the Mexican flag in the middle of their effort. Organizers say they had a permit that gave them the right to control who was in the park. The group, called the Border Guardians, burned the Mexican flag and set off a string of violent events.
They didn't want to accept all allegations as truth, of course, until they investigate. But all in all, I thought they were quite receptive. They know it's very serious. They're going to treat it seriously.
Organizers claim Tucson police used excessive force throughout the day, violently elbowing a woman in the face. Police say the allegations are ridiculous.
Live with coverage you can count on. This is News 4 at 10.
I think that was unacceptable behavior for officers of the law.
Tucson police coming under fire for how they handled Monday's scuffle at the immigration march and rally. Demonstration organizers asking for an apology. Now to some fiery fallout today from Monday's rally for immigration reform. 15,000 people turned out in downtown Tucson expressing their opinions on this divisive issue. But when counter-demonstrators literally heated things up by burning a Mexican flag, the peaceful protest boiled over. Police moved in using pepper spray and arrested 6 people. Today, demonstration organizers had something to say about that. News 4's David Marino is here now with the latest. David.
Tom, organizers of the immigration march and rally are asking the city to issue a public statement accepting responsibility for Monday's scuffle. They're also asking for a public apology.
I got pepper sprayed and it did hit my eyes and I got a panic attack and I couldn't breathe.
Unacceptable. That's how Dominic Moya Flores describes the actions of police officers during Monday's immigration march and rally.
Police officer hit a little girl with his elbow, and she also got pepper spray.
Demonstration organizers accused the city of putting the public in danger by allowing a counter-protest group called Border Guardians to set up shop right in the middle of their otherwise peaceful rally.
They should have known that we were going to fill the park and it would have been safer to keep them across the street as we had been told the entire time.
Today, organizers held a meeting with police and other city officials. They're asking for a full investigation.
We thought everybody was receptive to the complaints that we put forward and our requests from the city.
Subsequent to any of the major events that we have in the city, the Tucson Police Department always conducts what we call an after-action review.
That after-action review will focus on what worked and what went wrong, including the use of force by officers.
Generally speaking, the use of force is warranted and is found to be within policy.
Captain Brett Klein says for now they'll be sifting through police and media video and interviewing witnesses.
Well, the faith and trust of a community for a police department is critical, and we absolutely value that trust. And it will be important to us to make sure that we keep that kind of value from the community.
Demonstration organizers also believe the charges filed against 6 people arrested on Monday should be dropped. Police say their after-action review will take about 3 weeks. David Marino, News 4.
Live from Tucson, covering all of southern Arizona, This is K-Gun 9 News at 10.
You know, from soup to nuts, everything that we did out there, we look at it from A to Z. We look at it and see how it worked.
Hindsight is 20/20. City officials say they will review their actions during this week's immigration demonstrations. Good evening, everyone. I'm Jennifer Waddell.
And I'm Guy Atchley. A push is on to drop the charges against 6 protesters arrested following this week's immigration reform march. And that's not all the march organizers want. Jenny Rose in the newsroom with the latest.
Guy, at issue is whether Tucson police were justified in arresting protesters and using pepper spray to control the crowds, and whether counter-protesters should have been allowed inside Armory Park.
Back off. Back off.
This was the scene when demonstration dissolved into confrontation at Armory Park on Monday. Tucson police arrested 6 protesters and used pepper spray to subdue many more. Wade Caldwell was one of the protesters hit with pepper spray, but says he doesn't take issue with his physical injury.
Spit it out on you. Spit it out. Spit it out. The whole situation would never have happened if they had not allowed them to have that area right next to the stage. They should have put them across the street, maybe a half a mile away.
Organizers of Monday's march say Tucson police violated the public's trust.
The community was pretty disappointed, I have to say.
Things did heat rather quickly, and then they cooled rather quickly as well. So it becomes a tense situation, but officers are trained to deal with that.
City officials have agreed to investigate Monday's events. By interviewing officers on scene and analyzing video footage of the melee, they'll look closely at whether counter-protesters should have received a permit to demonstrate in the midst of the march, and whether Tucson police were justified in using force.
You better back off.
From soup to nuts, everything that we did out there, we look at it from A to Z. We look at it and see how it worked.
Now, thanks to the heavy police presence at the demonstrations, the review process will take at least 3 weeks. Until then, city officials won't say if they will reprimand any officers or drop the charges against the protesters who were arrested.